Well, as is our tradition, we often start off with some eye candy to roll us into the day. For those of you who come early, I often come early as well, perhaps not this early. I decided to come early today just because I knew they'd cordon off a part of the Eisenhower parking deck. I guess they have a sinkhole opening up underneath it, so part of that's opened up. So this is not Spanish 3, it's CME 303, Fluid Mechanics. We'll spend the rest of the semester together. Syllabi at the back in the middle aisle. I guess if you wanted to move half of them over by the door, that'd be great as well, because that would catch other people who come in. And so I came to make sure I could remember how to work the equipment. I think I do. And so we're rolling. I often come to start 5 minutes early and run some movies which are relevant to the material that we talk about on that particular day. This happened, I think, January 2022, Hunga Tonga eruption in the far southwest corner of the Pacific, kind of near New Zealand and Australia, north of New Zealand. A huge volcanic eruption, kind of in the middle of nowhere, but with islands and islanders, South Pacific islanders close by, maybe 10 or 20 kilometers away. And it was a huge eruption. You saw the cameo just before, magma getting quenched in the water, the cap rock blasting off, seawater coming in, and a huge eruption that followed, and then a caldera that collapsed in on itself, went up to, I don't know, 10 miles high, the ash cloud, caused, well, you can read it as well as I, caused a small tsunami, which was felt around the world, with centimeter type heights. But the run-up on local islands, I think, was much more on close islands, maybe 10 meters or so, which is 30 feet. 10 meters is about three stories. And I'm not sure, there wasn't much loss of life. I'm sure there was some, but it's not very heavily populated part of the Pacific. And so not just showing it because it's kind of an interesting case study, but it's fluid mechanics. Magma's a fluid. Happens to be a hot fluid, but it flows. Happens to be molten rock, which is solid, so it transforms from one phase to another. All the activities with it are related to fluids. Water rushing in and quenching. The ash cloud that comes out of it rises by buoyancy and carries ash with it as particles, and then dumps them elsewhere. And the winds that carry the ash aloft around the world are also a fluid mechanics phenomenon, as are all our weather systems. And of course, the tsunami that developed is also a fluid mechanics problem in the real world. This kind of is an engineering class, so we're looking at flow in pipes, in well bores for gas, flow in mines for ventilation, flow in the subsurface for environmental remediation and geothermal energy, which covers all the four majors of that will come here: petroleum, mining, environmental systems, and energy engineers. And this is just the preamble, by the way. So you're getting something unique, but and so this is fluid mechanics that's geared to that particular program. Again, people coming in, syllabus at the back if you want to grab it. I'm not sure what we have. Yeah, tsunami. So modeling is a big part of what we won't do in this class, but it's a big part of fluid mechanics. And so if you want to know exactly where the tsunami is going to go, you put buoys in the ocean to be able to measure either surface height changes or pressure changes on the bottom, which can tell whether there's a wave above you, and use that sensing network to then, from known earthquakes typically, or known volcanic eruptions, be able to predict what's going to happen. So a big effort happened after the 2004 Boxing Day earthquake in Indonesia that killed 200,000 people, and mainly by the tsunami that was spawned by it on December 26th, 2004. I guess you wouldn't be very young, you wouldn't be very old then. Probably if you're on track, would you be 2, 3? Then, yeah, if you're, so. But anyway, huge loss of life and a wake-up call in terms of what to do in those kinds of circumstances. And so very sophisticated ways to be able to model it. So the idea is from earthquakes are strong, they're sensed around the world, there's monitoring networks of seismometers, so any earthquake that occurs anywhere, Turkey, for instance, a couple of 6 months ago, right, on the East Anatolian Fault, would be sensed everywhere around the world. If it's a subsea earthquake, you can predict from how it deforms exactly what the impact would be in terms of whether it would spawn a tsunami or not. Some do, some don't. And you can model things to determine what those after effects might be and get the warning out. We'll look at this in the class. We've still got 6 minutes to go, I see. But we'll look at this again. Way too old for you guys. Your parents might have seen this. The Poseidon Adventure, related to fluid mechanics because it's an ocean-going cruise ship, Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth, whatever, that gets struck in the middle of the ocean by a tsunami. And of course, we'll find out in this course that mid-ocean, a tsunami might be half a meter tall, not 10 meters tall. And so we'll talk about this a bit later on. Of course, it's pure fiction of exactly what the science would tell you what the tsunami would look like. I'm just jabbering away, syllabi on the back, flanking the mid-aisle if you want to get it. You don't need it per se, but it might help you in what we'll talk about today. So this we'll talk about later on. So I'll rewind that back. What else we got? I won't show that. That's the Beirut blast. You know, someone very stupidly took 2,700 tons of fertilizer, ammonium chloride perhaps, or ammonium nitrate is used as fertilizer. You can also make bombs out of it by adding an oxidizing agent to it. Probably as kids you might have done that. I did, I know. And it blew up in the port, and it just shattered all of Beirut. And certainly that would have been in your lifetime. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Das wichtigste Gerät des Küstenwächters. Das Gerät und das Gerät.
Perhaps you can't hear this. This is just a bit of humor.
Das hier ist mein Sektor. Das hier ist das wichtigste Gerät des Küstenwächters. Das Gerät und das Gerät. Überlebensradar.
Can you hear?
Mayday, mayday. Hello, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you... Over. We are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We are sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
Communication is always good. And so a bit of humor. Humor's good as well. And well, yeah, and now we're out of this. I'm reminded that having taught through COVID on campus without a break, I guess I didn't need to do that, from March of 2020, I guess, when Penn State very nicely sent all the infected kids home to infect their parents at spring break. We didn't teach that semester, but after that, in the fall of 2020 and onwards, we taught in distant classrooms. I guess you wouldn't have been quite on campus then. But this time last year was the very first unmasked sessions after COVID. And I'm reminded of the fact that after having taught throughout that, I would turn up to class, but lots of other people wouldn't because we broadcast it, as we do in this class. We don't broadcast, but we record. Then within a week of having my first unmasked class, I had COVID by Friday. so I got 2 weeks off teaching, and the students got 2 weeks to do everything on campus by online. So anyway, so hopefully that won't repeat itself this way. So, and I know exactly who gave it to me, I think, because I was chatting with someone and said, "Oh, I got COVID in the first week of class." Oh, thank you. We did talk, didn't we? So anyway, so Schlieren, COVID, obviously, it's a fluid transport problem. Everyone's worried about washing their hands when we first knew about COVID, because we thought that would be like flu. That's how you transmit flu, by getting it on your hands and putting your hands in your mouth. but it's really by respiratory, respired particles. And so Schlieren imaging, as you see here, is just a way of being able to image exactly flows of air around airplane wings and models in wind tunnels, but also natural health effects. And so we don't have to worry about that now. It's kind of nice. It almost seems that COVID was never here. So it's kind of curious that that's the case. So that takes us up to the witching hour. We're now at 8 o'clock even. I don't know if I have anything else much to show. More COVID stuff. So, no. Yeah, and other fluid mechanics phenomena, firestorms, firestorms, floods, torrential rains as we have here this summer as we've never had before, are all fluid mechanics phenomena. We're getting our driveway washed out by our multiple and frequent deluges that we have that seem to come and just don't move very quickly, so they dump a whole bunch of rain. Hurricane Hillary, downgraded now to a tropical cyclone, perhaps, or a cyclone in Southern California, dumped as much rain in in a day as these places normally get in half a year. And so we'll talk in terms of all the things we'll talk about maybe next time to get things going. So it's kind of time to get going. Syllabi at the back if you want to grab them if you don't already have them. My name's Derek Ellsworth. Welcome to EME 303, not Spanish 3, as some person wandered in here a little earlier wondering about. Today I just want to introduce the class to you. And so what we'll do is we'll talk about the conduct of the class in general. And I'm trying to figure out what I want to go to. And so, I guess everything, if you came in later than now, you haven't seen that I'm recording things. So everything I put on the screen today will be screen captured. And so what you need to do for this class is realize that there are only two particular websites that you should find. One is related to me. So if you know my name and you Google me, oh, that's not right. You will find that there's three Derek Ellsworths. One is me. One is a coal merchant in Yorkshire. And one is a Baptist minister in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I am not any, and they're not as important as I am, judging by the rankings on this. Oh, that's not the one you want. This is my personal page. EMO 303 is where we are. So there's a course resources page, which everything for this class is served to you on. And I guess the other thing that you might want to get is the Canvas location. And so, oh, I'm already in it, so that's good. So I don't have to dual authenticate. That's interesting. Perhaps that's because I was on it already this morning at 3 o'clock, because I just got back from Beijing 2 days ago. And could do student view, I suppose. So everything is served up to you as needed on here. I suppose if you want to find the syllabus, you can find this. This is the syllabus, which is also on the course resources page, which we'll spend some time talking about today. And also a link to this course resources page. So everything's on Canvas. So if you go to syllabus on Canvas, I guess you can find both of the resources you need. The syllabus is what we'll talk about, which you have in your hands if you've grabbed one. And we'll go through it piecemeal. The other things on this web page which are of use to you are the notes for the class, which you can download. It's a big file, but those are what I will physically use in class to scribble on. It's not interactive in terms of me leaping around the classroom, waving my arms around, but it is interactive in terms of me writing things on the board, so to speak. And all the things that are served to you on here. I guess the things that you might want to get early on are, well, you can see all the homeworks are delivered online. You'll do a presentation in this class. Two things that you might want to do coming out of here before we meet next time, not that there's going to be a test, are to download the prior tests for this class, which exist. It's a big file. There are tests and solutions ever since 2009. So whatever that is, 14 or 15 years. I can't remember what the math is for that. 15 years, I think, right? There are also the homework questions, which come from the 7th edition of Munson. And so we'll talk about the book and etc. But the questions for the homeworks, which are submitted online on Thursdays at midnight, Thursday at midnight, are all in this PDF. If you want to get a book, you can probably find an edition of Munson's 7th edition online for free. I certainly can. The current one is, I think, 9th. I don't think you'll find one of those for free. But we don't actually use the book in any tangible way, except we do use the questions from the 7th edition. So not from the current edition, but from the 7th edition. So those two things, the exams and the problems. So that's worthwhile doing. So those are two of the things that you might want to do. And I guess I'll just go through this material. So my proclivity is to just to use Notability as a method to talk about things. This is just the syllabus, which we've already looked at. I think this is a file I can probably write on. Let's see. I can. So 303, it's a blended class. That means we meet most of the time, but some of the time we don't meet. Maybe 4 weeks of the year we don't meet, and you'll get extra credit for those 4 weeks by looking at the classes online and doing quizzes. We'll meet here when we meet. Attendance is optional, not for me. I guess I have to come, but attendance is optional for you. You have to decide how you want to do the class. A typical class, we might have 10% of the class here in the latter part of the class, just because some people come in on an early bus for their day and they come here, or some people want to hear what I have to say. I'm not sure what the reason is, or some people might want to get out of the rain, don't know. But typically that's the kind of dynamics of the class. The book is Munson, which is this. There should be some copies in the library. We used to have a special Penn State version which didn't have turbo machinery and didn't have compressible fluids on it, so it's slightly cheaper than the real version. It probably is $150 for the book. I know books are stupidly expensive these days. It's your choice as to whether you get it or not. We don't use anything specifically from the book. The homework examples that you will do are from the 7th edition and are present on Canvas. You should download them. And so you don't need the 9th edition. You can probably find the 7th edition from free somewhere. I'm pretty sure you could. You're all very enterprising webites and should be able to do that. And of course, you can get an electronic copy. All these hot links should work. I won't open them here, but you should be able to download it. If you want an electronic, a digital copy, either non-expiring or expiring, then that's the place to get the 9th edition or the previous ones. My name's Derek Ellsworth. I said that already, but along with my two other friends in Yorkshire and Halifax, I'm fine to go with first names. I presume to use your first name if I get to know you. I have an open door policy, but kind of not really for this class. I'm more interested to talk to you and find out about where you're from and what your aspirations are, and just have a chat with my feet up on the desk than figure out why your question number 7.2 isn't right to 2 decimal places, of which we have TAs to help you with that. So do stop by. Some people do that. Some people do it and infect them with COVID, of course. But such is life, and it was a very easy COVID for me anyway. Hope it is for everybody. So do come by. If you're thinking about graduate school or going on, often for graduate school, you need someone to write a recommendation for you. It's useful if you have someone who can say more than, if I'm asked for someone in this class who I haven't talked to, I'm happy to do it, but it's a one-line letter that says, so-and-so got a B+, A+ in a challenging course in fluid mechanics. That's all I can say. So if you want something that says a bit more about you, then you should implant that in me before by stopping by. It's quite nice to chat to students, and you should take that as an opportunity. As I say, I have an open door policy. It's one of the few doors, it seems to me, that in Hostler is open these days. We have a couple of TAs, but the most important guy for you will be Garrett Ziegler, who sat right here last semester. Most of the time, he came most of the time to class. He's an undergraduate in either energy engineering or environmental systems engineering, I can't remember which. And he has some office hours. These might change. I think he's going to do it in person. These will be in 111 Hostler, which is kind of the student lounge in Hostler building. Matt and Junpeng can also help out, but I guess the first line of defense or resource should be Garrett. So you should use him, I think, you should use him. And some people do fully. Some people don't feel they need to, don't want to, and that's fine. That's your choice. The other two things that we've talked about, I already just said. So if you can find this syllabus sitting at the back, these are the two websites you need. My homepage, and through it to the class activities, which are everything that we talked about, and also the stuff on Canvas. The class has 2 or 3 prerequisites. These are they. Also, in my liberal views of first name policy, I have quite liberal views on prerequisites. Personally, I don't care. I think the university does. I'm not quite sure why. My approach to teaching is that you're adults, right? 20-ish, soon able to vote, able to vote already, soon able to drink. That's more important, perhaps. Drink legally in this country. We take students to New Zealand, of course. Drinking age in New Zealand is 18. But my view on prerequisites is I'll sign off on your ability to take the class if you want me to. It's just that you need to be responsible for the material. All the stuff is served up to you online. We have previous classes recorded for the last, started doing it in 2012, I guess, when we moved into a new classroom that didn't have a board that I could write on. And so there's lots of collective resources which we'll look at in the future. So if you want an override to get into it, I'll do that. I think the university is starting kicking people out, or perhaps not letting them enroll in the first place. It seems to me that people, if they think they can handle the class, they should be able to take it, and so that's my view. I suppose the reason the university doesn't like to do it because they sometimes get it in the neck from parents, angry parents who say, well, my Johnny or Janie failed and you shouldn't have let them take the class. And so I prefer to err on different sides, and I'm happy to take that criticism. To me, it's all about personal responsibility. So you don't have to come to class, but the personal responsibility in this class is that you have to perform on the tests and the homeworks and the presentations, and those are absolutes. The grading policy is in terms of the things that we do. So we've talked about people. We've talked about modality in class. We're going to go through the syllabus. There are weekly assignments, roughly equally, they are equally weighted. 13 of them. There won't be one this week. The first one will be due on this week's material a week Thursday at midnight. Closes absolutely personal responsibility. The door closes at midnight on the Thursdays. So, if you're out on Thursday, try and get it done before you go out, rather than, well, you wouldn't be home at midnight anyway in that case. It's possible to game them. I'm sure people do game them. I think they're useful because they get used to understanding the course material, and so they're probably useful to you more than the absolute score and its contribution to your grade. There's a group presentation assignment. And it's actually the 4th page on the syllabus that you have in very small print, which you have here. Oh, I guess this isn't the syllabus we're looking at. I guess this is something else that I use. I guess it was the last thing. Exit full screen. I guess I wanted to use, what happened to it? What should I do? Why don't I get it? Where's notability? So, Okay, that's the syllabus, right. So you have it. So, well, I have to start marking it up again, but so you got where we are. So there are group presentations in this class as well. I'll put you into groups of about 5. You don't get to choose your cohort, just like working in a company when you work as a team. It's the big thing these days. You work in teams in companies. So each person brings some expertise to it, and we have that kind of mix in this class. It's a class for the Department of Energy and Mineral Engineering, which is the home to these 4 undergraduate programs: petroleum, mining, environmental systems engineering, and energy engineering. So you bring something to the table. And so the group presentation is what's described in this rubric at the back in terms of what you need to do. It's pretty straightforward. It really comes down to, people do something more elaborate. It should be one PowerPoint slide that you narrate to be able to describe some enigmatic, mysterious fluid mechanics problem. For those of you who are here a bit earlier, you watched some of these movies, and I'll bring it back up again. And so I can think of all kinds of interesting fluid mechanics problems. Not the German Coast Guard. Oops, I didn't want to open that.
This.
Yeah, COVID, we're not going back there. I wanted to bring up the Poseidon Adventure. Where is it? Does someone see it? Original, oh, there it is. Yeah, fine. So, one question. So this is the Poseidon Adventure. So we were talking before about tsunami.
What did you look at?
I never saw anything like it. An enormous wall of water coming towards us.
Tsunami in the middle of the ocean don't look like that. They're centimeters tall. They're big when they run up onto land, but they're not big when they're in the middle of the ocean. And so one enigmatic fluid mechanics question from this is that you'll see a boat in a little while being hit by the tsunami. Did we already see it, actually? Did I miss it? Here comes the wall of water. And so this is before computer-generated animation. And the question would be, is this a real boat getting hit by a tsunami? Or is it a model boat in a bathtub getting hit by a water wave? What's your thoughts? You're not going to talk to me? Yeah, it's a model boat, right? Why do you think it's a model boat? What are the reasons that you think it's a model boat? What's in your eye that makes you think that? Go ahead.
I see the wave that's hitting it is like crashing out in the middle of the ocean, and I know waves don't tend to crash in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. There's no reason for it to do that. So that's one reason. 2 other reasons I can think of. One, if you look at the size of the water droplets, they're huge. And so if you scale them relative to the size of the boat, can a water droplet be a meter across? Because everything is in perspective of the boat behind it. And so you can do a very simple calculation, and there's an example on the online materials that shows that with surface tension of raindrops, you can't get a meter diameter raindrop, thankfully. It'd probably hurt. But you can get 5 millimeters, maybe a couple of tenths of an inch. That's about the maximum size you can get before the skin of surface tension that water walkers go on in ponds breaks apart and you can't sustain it. So that's one thing. When you look at the drops at the boat behind, they're quite big. So I don't know if I can, where was it? This is this, right? So if you look at the size of the drops that are here, these are huge. These are compared to the size of the boat. The other thing is that if you look at the boat in the background, gravity acts on particles exactly the same way. So a raindrop that's falling is the same as this pen that's dropping. I'm not throwing it, but it's dropping. It drops at the same velocity and acceleration that anything does. And so if you're viewing it with a background of a ship that is only 10 centimeters tall versus 10 meters tall, then it travels a long way on that model that your eye perceives to be 10 meters tall in the time that it would do. So water droplets are traveling much faster. So those are 2 reasons that you could imagine that the fluid mechanics of this tell you that your eye would pick out that it's really a model boat being picked up. And that's just one of many examples you could think about using. So it doesn't have to be a really complicated problem. People do, how does rifling in a gun barrel work? Why do you spin a football? Why do you spin darts when you throw them? How does a jet engine work? I don't know. You can imagine all kinds of things. And there's some examples online. And so if you look at the course resources page, you can find some Poseidon adventures there and some examples from the 2017 and 2018. All the ones that I put on there I think are good ones rather than throwing you a bum steer and throwing you off in the wrong direction. But you can look at those and get an idea. The idea originally was, and the rubric will say, one PowerPoint slide. Typically groups don't do that, but it should be a presentation that's perhaps three minutes long to be able to explain a process. Some people use 4 or 5 slides, 1 slide per member. It's recorded, it's uploaded, so it's best if you record it and narrate it on PowerPoint. Then you can convert it to an MPEG file and then upload the video file. And then we used to do it in person with presentations. COVID came along and we never went back from it. So you'll do it with your group mates and present. There's a deadline for it, I guess. Where's the deadline? This is the deadline. So upload presentation following week 13, 14, 15. So week 13 is the run up to Thanksgiving. And so it's the Sunday before Thanksgiving break is when it's due. And so we'll make groups in week 3, and then you should meet and you should come up with a topic, and we'll kind of stage it to get you to do some things so you don't leave it until the end of week 13 and put something together in a hurry. For your own mental health, it's best not to do that. And so that's kind of a fun activity, I think, for this. And so the prior examples, and also at the bottom of this sheet, there's a whole series of ideas of things you might do or might think about, and also things that you should think about yourselves. How do whitewater kayaks work? How do you surf waves? How do you surf on a wave? Gravity versus friction on the bottom of the board, of course, which gives you a finite speed, etc. So that's something you have to do. I don't want to make you sick by moving through this so quickly. Midterms are kind of a bit test heavy. We used to have midterms at 3 Wednesdays in the year from 8 till 10 on a Wednesday evening with the whole test, 3 questions, allowing people to stay to midnight. COVID came along, we started doing it online in Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays of particular weeks, and now we'll keep with that still. And so the sequence for the midterms are that they will be on these dates shown here. So the coding, this is where we are today. We are here. And so the midterms will be on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of week 6, 11, 13, and the week before finals. Each of these 3 tests together are worth 15%, 5%, 5%, 5%. Each of these tests in the week before finals is worth 10 total, because that, to protect you, the faculty senate requires that you can't have anything in your last week which is worth more than 10% of your grade. So that's the reason for that. And the blue circles are the fact that you will get an online review to get you ready for the test that includes the equations that you need for the questions on that test. We'll look at them in a second. So these are the blue circles. You'll get those by then. The red circles are that the exams will be in the University Testing Center for the red ones. Haven't done that before. I'm going to try that this year. And the green ones will just be on Canvas, wherever you want to take it. And the reason for switching is that I think last year the grades were too high. I think there was something going on. All the tests were on Canvas under your own recognizance. And so I'm going to look to this year to see how it works out, look at the statistics. And so these will be in the testing center. You have all day to do them. And they're half-hour tests. These are also half hours, but you do it either here if you want to come to class and set up shop here, or you can do it in your house. And as I said before, the two things coming out from today, download the Edition 7 homework questions and the last 15 years tests and solutions. I would say that if you remember one thing I say today, the ultimate arbiter of grades in this class is understanding the material enough to do well on the tests. So understanding the format of the tests, having worked through the tests, I would say is the most important things you can do. You don't have to work through verbatim, but certainly you can look at the individual tests in the past, figure out exactly what equations you'd use to solve and in what sequence, and then look at the solutions to check that that indeed would have given you the right answer that you were seeking. Understanding the tests, since a large part of the grade, 55% is it, is on tests. What is it? I forget. No, it's 20%. It's 20%. I lied. The midterms are worth, weekly ones are worth 20%, not 15%. 20%, 20%, 20% is 60% for the three of them. And the finals the week before finals one is worth 10%. So 70% of the grade is on these tests. So that is the arbiter of how well you do in this class. There's some online content quizzes for when we can't meet because you're taking tests. If you're taking tests on the day in the university centre, then certainly we can meet in class. If you're taking it during the class period, because they'll be served up, if it's on these green ones, they'll be served up at 8 o'clock in the morning and they'll close at 8:30. So obviously we can't have class those days. And so there'll be extra credit for every time we can't meet. And if you look at this rubric here, marked on here, this is for a week of classes which are being online and asynchronous. Recorded classes from a previous year with a 10-question quiz to show really that you've gone online to do it. They're not onerous questions at all. So it's kind of, as I say, it's a blended class. What else? So the materials, so we've said that tests account for 70% of the grade, so it's probably useful that you understand exactly how those work. So on Canvas, so what material do we have online? The best thing to look is on Canvas. Have I gone from Canvas? Go on Canvas. Is everyone on Canvas now? Because it's the first day of classes? May well be. Hopefully I'm still online. Yeah. Did I have a Canvas page open? No. Well, that's annoying. So on Canvas, what you'll find, so the third thing that you might do today, download Edition 7 homeworks, download the tests which come in a big zip file and unzip it. The other thing you might do is look online for last year's first midterm, which is open to you, and you will have the solution for it in the other package that you'll download. So you can look at it and see exactly how it's done. So it will comprise 10 or so questions. Let's see. Access denied. That's because it's a student view. So it will look like assignments. It won't look like this to you because it'll be slightly different. These are the homework submissions. These are the lecture quizzes which will be activated. So maybe this will look like it to you. I'm not sure exactly. Hopefully it looks like. So you'll be able to do this test. What it will look like to you is this is the multi-part question. Right on its tail is a screen capture of the review that's posted not a week before, but a few days before the weekend before the test, which is narrated. And so I endeavor, I'm not trying to trip you up, I'm trying to give you every single equation that you need to do the test. And so that will exist at the bottom of the test. And then you have to fill in the questions with the right answers, whatever those are. And so the right answers will follow from the material that's above them, and then submit them. And so you'll do that for some of them in the University Testing Center in Pollock. They'll give you their closed notes, closed book, because if you can't, the equation sheet, if you like, is the stuff that follows the test. You need to be able to have that ready to go. They're too short tests to not have that at your fingertips. And so some of them are in the University Testing Center. Those are the red ones, red circles. The green ones are in the comfort of your apartment. Should do it alone, should do it the same circumstances. Obviously, I can't police that. But anyway, so you should be able to do that test as many times as you want just to become familiar with it. The test answers, some are multiple choice, but most of them are numerical examples. They're plus or minus 10%. So if the real answer is 10, then the band of right answers will be 11 and 9, roughly. And so that is the form. And so you'll see exactly how that is. So we try and challenge the students to do a decent job in those. So that's that. Again, if I go back to, didn't want that. If I go back to the home page, what a handsome guy. Yeah, all right. So there are review notes for each test. I don't think those are so useful anymore. I made those many, many moons ago. But they do concatenate all the material that we've done in that portion. All the tests for this class cover a portion of the syllabus. The first midterm, second midterm, third and fourth. Someone's on fire. The finals aren't comprehensive. They're the last portions of the material. And so a typical review for the class would look like this.
This is the review for the forthcoming midterm. So the midterm is online. It's 8 to 8:30, although it'll typically open at...
So, a few instructions. So I'm not a complete bastard. I'm trying to help you through this. I'm not trying to steer you in the wrong direction. In each week, there'll be 3 exams, 3 questions, and you know exactly what the material is that comprises those questions. So the first test will take us up to 4.1, week 4, the first class. 4.2 is the Wednesday, 4.3 is the Friday, etc. I'll tell you for each of the 3 classes what the topics are. Don't make the mistake, as some of your predecessors have, of being at the second set of midterms said, "Oh, Professor, did we need to go to all 3? I thought we got to pick one of the 3. I just went to the Friday one." Sorry. So all 3. Make sure you go to all 3. And you can narrow down what you do in terms of knowing what the materials are. So we try and hone in on what you need to do. And you'll recognize some of the formula here. We'll go through these. And so I just go through a discussion to not explain how to solve the problems, but to explain them how to solve questions related to the specific material close to those problems, and to review what the material is. And so if you saw in that previous test, the questions are written down, typed. The equation sheet is just a screen capture of this final marked up equation sheet. It's kind of an informal equation sheet that I've put together. And so it's meant to give you all the material that you should need to be able to solve the questions. And again, I say I'm not trying to steer you in the wrong direction with that. And so those are existing. In fact, of course, the best thing of any class is transparency. So you can check those questions. You can check the review. You can check the midterm that came out of that review because you have them. And so you can see exactly whether I was steering you in the right direction or the wrong direction in reaching that conclusion. So that's kind of where we are. I'm not sure what else we need to chat about. So the midterms are 3 weeks of them, I guess 9 total, each worth 6.66, right, I guess? Kind of a final exam, but worth only 10% cumulative in that week because it's the week before finals. No exam in finals week. And when we don't meet for class, you get 1/3 of a point credit for it. Right now, it's 4 weeks that we don't meet because of certain things. And so you get some credit for that, for doing the tests, doing the lectures, and then doing the quizzes that come with them. I think this just explains everything I've talked about. Thirsty Thursday, assignments, deadline. Don't send me email at 2 o'clock on Friday morning when you just got home from the bar on Thirsty Thursday saying, I did it, but my computer broke. But nah, don't think so. My network went down. Get them in. And it's only, so each one of those, 15% total, so each one of the 13 is worth 1 point something. So it's not really worth your effort to try and persuade me to let you resubmit it. If you have a death in the family, maybe, but otherwise, don't. I'm happy to cut people a break, but I think many of the requests I get are spurious, I guess. I get that vibe. I'm not a suspicious guy, but I get a bit of that vibe. Group presentations, lots of information on that. We've talked about that. Midterms are as we've talked about. Some are in Pollock, some are under your own recognizance at home or in the classroom. The reason that they're 30 minutes and kind of time crunch is that when COVID hit, we started doing them online. So doing them quickly didn't allow communication, and that was the idea. 30 minutes because people who get extra time for to do the classes, if they get 50% extra time, then it's still within the class period before, it's 8:45, 8:45, so that takes care of that. So that's part of the rationale for that. And I just mentioned the band of plus or minus 10% on the answers. The grade rubric is this. I used 93.3. I don't know, some people use 95. I guess that's a bit more liberal. Or a bit in your best interest. We had a huge numbers of A's last year. That's why we're changing the modality of the tests. The material, if you want to read the book, great. These are this is the stuff for the 7th edition. Largely follows for the 9th edition as well, but get yourself a free book and make the man work for himself, not me, the man. Corporate America by working around it. These are the rough topics. The topics for the first test are up to here, up to 4.1 actually. So fluid statics and pressures on structures is the first one. 4.1 is also about pressures on structures. The next test is on fluid dynamics, Bernoulli equation, conservation of mass, conservation of volumes, Reynolds transport theorem, conservation of momentum. F equals ma is conservation of momentum. So that's the material for the second midterm, those 3 topics. Conservation of energy, similitude, through to the practical stuff. So if you like, the background information is up to week 9. Conservation of energy and dimensionless analysis, a hugely important topic in engineering that allows you to design an experiment where you do a minimum number of experiments, and a very important technique in all of your classes, not just in fluid mechanics. Just in fluid mechanics it's used more widely than others. And then the material after that is all the practical stuff that you need for your job when you get it. Viscous flow in pipes, how do you design a pipe network? How do you look at flow coming up a well and look at viscous losses to design how strong, how much power the pump should have? So 10 and 11 talk about those 2 things. Week 12 talks about external flows, flow over immersed bodies. So a typical immersed body would be flow around a wind turbine blade, driving it. I hear on the radio today that it's the inaugural voyage of a ship from China to Brazil that is sail powered. And of course sails are not the floppy canvas type sails. They're rigid sails like a wing. And of course the sail acts just like a wing. It catches the wind just as if you're blowing in it, but it also behaves like a wing in terms of how a wing drags you up into the sky because of low pressure above the wing and high pressure below it. A sail acts in the same way of having low pressure ahead of it, just from the flow around it, so you can sail closely into the wind. And so I guess the reason for it going from China to Brazil is it's probably a Chinese boat, and there's this BRICS summit, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, a group of countries, in South Africa, right? I don't think Putin's going. He's not going, in fact. And then the final part is on flow over immersed bodies. I guess we talked about that. and open channel flows. Flows in ditches and rivers and channels, etc. Perhaps not so relevant for any of the people in this group, but certainly flow over immersed bodies and flow down pipes is for all of the engineering disciplines. Petroleum engineers, environmental systems engineers, flow in the ground, viscous flow, Darcy's law, permeability in the subsurface. Energy engineers, flow in pipe networks, wind turbines and power from wind turbines. Mining engineers, flow in ventilation of underground mines. And who did I miss? Energy engineers, environmental systems engineers, petroleum engineers, mining engineers, flow and ventilation networks. All right, academic integrity, yeah, you don't do those things. Other policies, there's also a document here if you want to download it. I can't remember what it says. It says all the things that we're supposed to put in the syllabus, which I think are ridiculous to put in a 10-page syllabus, so I leave them out. If you want to go and look at it. Yeah. The key to these colors is this. Go and look at those 3 things I said to. 7th edition questions, download. Midterm questions, download with the solutions. Look at the exam online. And this is the material for the rubric for grading for the presentations, the timing of those presentations, and that's about it. Did I cover all the things that I said I'd cover on the syllabus? I don't see it. I know I'm jumping around like a crazy guy. What else was on here? If I look on here, people, modality, blended, material, syllabus. The deliverables we talked about, safety, yeah, unfortunately. It pains me to say this, but it's a reality, right? This is just an incredible epidemic, unfortunately, in this country. So if there's something going wrong, these are your options. Run, get the hell out of here. Door, door, door. If you can't, for some reason, then you hide. And if someone comes in who's going to do you harm, at some stage, they probably are going to do you harm. So there's no reason not to fight. It's going to be your best option. Really pains me to talk about that, but that's a reality. So one good thing about having stuff online, I guess, right? You're super safe. And that's it. So I've kind of done all the talking. Do you want to do some talking? Questions? Yeah.
Will all the homework questions be provided on campus?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's a PDF file. It has all the every single question that's asked. I guess the other thing to talk about the homework questions. If you're acing the homework questions, don't think you're acing the test, acing the class. I think they're much more straightforward than the tests aren't difficult, but the questions I think are more straightforward and just very terse, very short. The test questions are kind of multi-stage questions. I am very careful that if there's a multi-stage question, that getting the second answer doesn't depend on getting the first answer right. So I attempt in any way I can to decouple them. But of course, you're engineers. You're burgeoning engineers. And of course, the other thing I should mention about the class is we don't grade on a curve. So curves are absolute. The tests are graded out of 110%. And so you can get 110% for if you get a straight, full question, full right answer test, you get 110%. And so that 110% means that the 60% on the midterms and the 10% on the finals, 70% total. That means that the final grade for this class is out of 107% plus the 4% extra credit, right? So if you look at the math for that, this is 60% plus 10% is 70%. Those tests are graded at 10% extra, so that's really an extra 7%. And so the full grade for the class is out of 111, right now. If there are more times when we won't meet for whatever reason, then this 4 will go up from 4. It's probably already a bit larger than that. I'll give you credit for Labor Day, Monday, to do the quiz sometime before it expires. I think the quizzes are open on the day of the quiz and close at midnight on the next class. So the Monday class on Labor Day will open on Monday at 0001 hours in the morning, and it will close on Wednesday at midnight. And it won't open after that. So you'll get a third of a point extra credit for that, and also on the times we don't meet. So I think it works okay, this class. It can work for you. I think it's the best class you'll ever take on campus, but I'll leave your judgment to that as you get through this. It's pretty open, and you can deal with it any way you want. I'll be here almost all the time. You can be or don't need to be. On rainy days, sometimes we're super low. People just decide on how they want to do it. What other questions we have? Yep. Yeah, they'll typically be incompressible fluids. So there'll be water or oil, not gas, because those equations are a bit more difficult. And we'll relate. I don't really care what the fluids are. The fluids are characterized by just two parameters: viscosity and density. Those are the two important parameters that define the behavior. So whatever it is, if we know what those two parameters are, and that they're incompressible, then that's all we need to know. So, yeah. Great having you back. It's an exciting class. It's good to be. I love it when students leave in, don't get it wrong, in May. Campus clears out. It's great when everyone comes back and life comes back to the town in August. Really exciting. Parking decks falling over, I understand, since I got back from Asia just 2 days ago. It took a detour on my way here because I couldn't get through there. But great to have you back. Again, I have an open door policy. It'd be great if some of you want to come by. Don't come by if you're COVID positive. But it's great to come down and just shoot the breeze. My question is, where are you from? And that's the question to raise into things. Great if you're from Pennsylvania. Great if you're from US. Great if you're from somewhere in the world. I've been to lots of places, and I can probably relate to where you've been. Often in this class, we'll go to pictures of different places. So drop by. Or if you don't want to drop by and shoot the breeze with me, if you think you're going to go to graduate school or you think you're going to need a recommendation letter from someone, cultivate that with someone. It's useful. People can't say anything useful about you unless they know something about you. So getting a line that says he, she did well in a fluid mechanics class and got an A might be all you want, but probably a prospective admissions office or graduate advisor might be interested to know something more about you from someone who's an adult. You're adults, an older adult who knows something about your technical capability and just extracurricular activities and just knows something about you, period. So that's it. This may well be the biggest class we ever see here, and people decide what they want to do afterwards, and that's absolutely okay with me. Any other questions before we get going? Yes?
Could you please go over how to download the homeworks again?
Yeah, okay, it's on Canvas. It's one of these canvases open. If I go to courses, I go to dashboard. So I'll put it in, it's not student, so you'll go into the class on Canvas. It should look like this to you. Should be under assignments, I'm guessing. So these are all the homework assignments that you'll submit. The submissions are just multiple choice questions that you'll submit the answers for. You get 3 attempts, by the way, for the homeworks. And so you really can game the system. Of course, 3 of you could get together and you could, with your attempts, you could work out, because you get told when you don't get one right. So if you know what you said, if 3 or 4 of you know what you said that isn't right, then you can probably work out what is right. So I won't do that. So you do it online, but you asked me how to get the homeworks. Download weekly homework problems. 7th edition of Munson. Should be a zip file. Yeah, download. That's it. You want to do the same for the midterms, download midterms exams. It's a big file because we've had lots of tests. The other thing that I pride myself on is that the questions, you might not be happy about it, the questions never repeat. So there's no question in any of those midterms. They're similar, but they don't repeat from one to another. If you have an emergency for a conflict exam, I'll ask you to document it. So they're not given lightly, again, because people sometimes play some games on those. But if you can document it, typically the conflict exams would be in finals week altogether at the end of the semester. There aren't very many of them. And typically those, of course, do not repeat from the previous conflict exam you do. And so if you miss exam, the first midterm, first one, then I'll tell you beforehand what your question will be on, but it won't necessarily be on the same material. It'll be some material on the class. So we don't, you have to have a good reason for a conflict exam. So what else do we need to cover? 7th edition questions, exam questions. Try last year's midterm 1-1 and see how it goes for you so you know what's coming. Look at the tests and do them. At the end of this week, you'll have enough material to do the homework number 1, which is due next Thursday, and that repeats all the way through the term. I'm starting to repeat myself. A common problem of getting old. But anyway, better than the alternative, of course, right? For me, anyway. Anything else? Great. Enjoy your day. Looks like it's going to be a great day. Come and talk to me if you wish to, and see many of you, I hope, on Wednesday.